a third show and Makers will affect the kick, and he does.
Flowers and call, Puopolo pocket.
Oh,
He has it away.
Not the man.
It's not possible.
Mitchell, and then Mitchell on the left gets the ball to Hawthorn. Oh, wow!
And that's your
0.
5 seconds to go, then it bounce. 13! 13! Can you believe it? He's kicked 13 on the siren.
Hello and welcome to HawkTalk for round 13. My name is Limo. This is Declan Fay. We're very excited to be coming to you this week from the bowers of Waverley, as we are every single week. Off a good win against Carlton last week. West Coast Eagles this week, Deck. But of course the big story out of last Friday night's game, Luke Hodge and those two bumps. Well, let's talk about the first bump with Mark Murphy. There was just, from the start, for mine, there was just nothing in that. Because it was just going for the ball.
Yeah, it's just a complete, what do you call it? It was
a collision.
A collision that you if you're both going for the ball and you both got your head down. And this is the problem, no one wants to go to ground now because they're so scared of either sliding or being caught over the ball. And they both kept their feet, and geez, it didn't look good though, did it?
Poor old Merv came off second best, but you know that's just the game where you go for the ball. There's going to be collisions, and everyone in the world, including the tribunal, said there's nothing in it. That's just part of the game. It's a collision. The only person, the only dissenting voice on the entire planet was Dave Hughes.
That's right.
Now, you can find it on the website, Hughesy talking to Hodgie about it on Nova the other morning. But I think Hughes is the only one holding the view that Hodgie should have been penalised for that particular bump.
Do you know the funniest thing about that is that, clearly Murphy was badly injured. It looked bad. And then they had that shot that they kept showing the ambulance pull up and he was going to get put into the ambulance.
Yeah.
And while he's getting wheeled into the ambulance on a gurney, he still had the red substitution thing on.
Sub-vest. You'd hate for there to be confusion. You know, you never know at the last minute.
That's the final incident. Not only have you had your jaw broken, you've subbed off, mate.
Just to be sure. Well, if you didn't have the sub-vest on, maybe they could have pushed the gurney out onto the ground. One of the trainers running around with the gurney.
Jeez.
Still leading for the ball.
At least Carlton could have used that in the last quarter when we were coming at them, actually.
Possibly they could have.
Very hard to man up a gurney.
It is indeed. Unless you've got your own gurney, of course. Now, the second incident, Deck, where Hodgie collided with Henderson. He was cited for it with a guilty plea. Could have got it down to a whole stack of carryover points, which we didn't want. So the club challenged. They were successful. It was a bit of a risk, but gee, it's paid off, hasn't it? Because no carryover points now, and he's free to play this week.
Yeah, he's clean. He's
clean.
He's got a clean record, and it's actually much better to have him go clean for the rest of the year. Heading into the finals, you don't need points.
Yeah, and when you play your footy the way Hodgie does, you know, he attacks the ball flat out 100% of the time. You don't want some stupid little incident in the first week of the finals, leading to him being rubbed out. Or, God forbid, the preliminary final.
Don't. I'll already have nightmares about it.
But this incident, I mean, for mine, it was a situation where he was avoiding Ruffy. Ruffy was coming through Hodgie's path, and he was going around him. So there wasn't a lot he could do about it. And, I thought Henderson could have been a bit more nimble on his feet, just getting out of the way.
Yeah, I just wish he had stood up in front of the tribunal and said, Ruffy made me do it.
And then Ruffy put his hand up and took any available points.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, good news there for the Hawks with Hodgie getting off that one. Okay, Deck, moving on to this week's game. The West Coast Eagles at Etihad. Which, can I just say, that annoys me that we're playing a home game at Etihad. Anyway, this isn't the time or place to complain about the fixture, is it, Limo? No, it's not. So let's move on to the game itself.
This is the second time you've complained about a West Coast fixture. Last time you were banging on because we had to get there and back within
5-day break, that's right. Anyway, we won that game, so I don't care anymore. But this is a home game at Etihad Stadium. Our home game should be played at the MCG.
Absolutely.
Anyway. Let's not get bogged down in whinging, okay? A few milestones this week. Can I kick us off with two? Isaac Smith, 50th game. Congratulations. Gee, that feels as though it's come up really quickly, doesn't it?
I feel like it's come up quickly, but I also feel like he's so ensconced as part of the team now.
Absolutely.
He feels like he's been around a lot.
Yeah, and he's playing some magnificent footy too. So congratulations, Isaac Smith. This is going to keep the cheer squad busy with the banner this week. Because also... Alistair Clarkson's 200th game as coach.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Clarko, on that magnificent milestone. And you've got another one.
Got an interesting one. Gwent
Guerra. Is he related to Brent Guerra?
That's like when you swap the initials of your name for a tram inspector. Yes, I'm Fecklin Day. It is.
I'm L'Anthony Eamon.
Is Brent Guerra is playing his 150th game for Hawthorn after crossing from Port and from St Kilda.
Yes.
He is the first individual to ever crack 150 games coming from another club. If you remember, we had Tony Woods, who came from Collingwood, who hit 142. And if you talk to him, he was always stiff. He never got an AFL life membership out of that. But 150 games for the Hawks for Brent Guerra this week.
All right, brilliant effort. Congratulations, Goo, on the 150 for the Hawks. Of course, all that'll be written on the banner this week. And also on the banner, no doubt, there will be recognition of the fact that this is our Kokoda game.
Yeah. And just that we didn't go with the camouflage one this week, mate. We've gone with the... This is just the straight jumper with Kokoda written there. It's got a commemorative thing for the game, and that is what people can pick up.
Yeah, absolutely. And with all due respect to last year's Guernsey, this one's a little bit better. I prefer this one. Hey, we should also mention, Dick, while we're at it, these gel hoodies that we're wearing have just arrived at the Hawks Nest. $50 each. It's an absolute bargain. They keep you warm and they keep you proud.
Yeah. Or just do what I'm going to do after the game. Yeah, see you guys, bye. And just keep walking out the door into the car park.
They've loaned us these, so you've just admitted on this Hawkcast that you're going to steal it.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah, good. Don't steal them, kids. You pay for them. They're only $50, okay? Hey, now, last week's competition... Who's the Hawthorn Football Club's greatest rival and why? We've had a whole stack of entries.
Jeez, if you want to see some real invective in your inbox, ask a question like, who is our biggest rival? There was a lot, obviously, for Geelong with the recent grand finals, them doing us 10 times in a row. A lot for Essendon as well.
Absolutely.
Going from the 80s to the line in the sand game, going right through to when Lloydie just cracked Sewell at the MCG.
The Velvet Sledgehammer, that angered me a lot.
In 2009, it was an extraordinary hit. But this was my favourite one, and this wins the Guernsey from last week.
Okay.
Mainly because it was a little bit out of the box, and it had a few less swear words than some of the other ones that were in there. This was the winner for this is Stuart Twyford.
Yes.
He's written, I know many say Geelong or Essendon, but for me, Hawthorn's biggest rival is the Kangaroos. Not because of the 3 grand finals in the 1970s, especially seeing Don Scott bloodied and scarred at the end of the 1978 grand final, which I think might have been the one that he's cracked the old champagne.
Smashed the champagne bottle on the sort of podium area.
And then drank a mouthful of champagne and shattered glass.
It's quite the mix. Champagne and orange, champagne and shattered glass.
He goes on, more because North Melbourne joined the league with the Hawks. It's been a rivalry since then, like twin brothers born into an already well-established family, albeit one where the Hawks are Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Kangaroos are Danny DeVito.
That deserves a Guernsey, Dick. I love it.
Anybody that can make a reference to twins in their correspondence to HawkTalk, then you go a long way to picking yourself up a Guernsey, which Stuart Twyford did for this week.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Stuart Twyford. You've got yourself a Hawks Guernsey. The question for next week, and you can win yourself a Alistair Clarkson signed Guernsey to commemorate his 200th game coaching the Hawthorn Football Club. We've enjoyed it so much this week with people digging up a lot of dirt about the rivalries. So this week, and now I'm going to give you a little preamble before I ask the question. We're playing the West Coast Eagles this week, and I don't really hate teams, but I just couldn't care less about the West Coast Eagles. There's just something about them that they just raised nothing in me, the West Coast Eagles.
They just really wind you up.
Oh, I just don't. There's something about them. I don't know if that was that early 90s when they knocked us off a few times or what it was, but I just don't like the West Coast Eagles.
I have a very similar feeling to you. I also don't like the West Coast Eagles, but that's because I grew up in Perth. It was as the West Coast Eagles started as a team. The first game I ever saw was at Subiaco, and it was that one where they beat us in 87, knocked us off the top of the ladder by, I want to say it was 5 or 6 points. It was the first game I ever saw, and I still remember towards the end of that game, as a kid, as a 7-year-old, yelling out, "You can do it, Hawks," and about 5 blokes Hawks turning around on that Subiaco hill and swearing at me and
That's not
abusing
nice.
me.
That's not nice.
And so from that day, I have never felt a skerrick of sympathy towards the West Coast Eagles, so I completely side with you on that.
All right, we're on the same page. The question is, who's your most hated team in the AFL?
And tell us why.
And tell us why.
Yeah.
A lot of people go for Collingwood, but Collingwood are about 5th on my list, I've got to say.
Yeah, Collingwood have never bothered me, mainly because we keep beating them in most recent years.
Essendon, Carlton, North Melbourne, no, they're way ahead of Collingwood for mine anyway. So who is your most hated or least favourite team? The Alistair Clarkson Guernsey up for grabs. Anyway, that's Hawk Talk for another week. Thanks for joining Declan Fay and myself, Limo. We'll be back next week with a very special guest from the Hawthorn Football Club. So please enjoy your footy this weekend. Go the Hawks, and we'll see you next week.
Go Hawks.